What's up, y'all? My name is Devontae, and I sacrificed my time so you don't have to. So I just finally made it home. I absolutely hate myself at the moment. Folks, if your manager gives you a schedule, look at it. Don't just make assumptions about your schedule. Actually look at your schedule. The only good thing about this is usually I can't remember the last time I actually recorded anything Friday in the morning time. If anything, Friday at all, period, outside of the SmackDown reviews. I mean, maybe I have. I'm pretty sure I have. But it's pretty rare that I record anything on Friday besides the SmackDown review. So this is a change of pace. I got nothing else better to do. And luckily, this article just popped up on my in my notification, and it really intrigued me. So I said to myself, you know what? Don't read it yet, Devontae. Don't make the title yet. Let's read the article together. And by let's, I mean me and my imaginary friend, your mom's pussy. So with that being said, let's read this, live react to it, and let's get to the bottom of what the fuck they're talking about. Because again, this title's so weird. Here, check it out. Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman push to change WWE WrestleMania 39 plans. The link is down in the description box below, as per usual. There was a widespread belief among many fans that WWE's decision to alter its plans for WrestleMania 39 Night 2 last year by having Roman Reigns retain the undisputed WWE Universal title instead of Cody Rhodes defeating him was a mistake. Prior to the event, it was widely speculated that Reigns would drop the title to Rhodes and take a break from WWE. This happened during a period when Vince McMahon was implementing changes to the creative direction, most notably to the post-Mania episode of Raw. Although McMahon was present at WrestleMania, Triple H was still responsible for overseeing the creative aspects of the main roster. It was believed that McMahon played a role in the decision to have Reigns retain the title at the event. However, at WrestleMania XL, or 40, Rhodes finished his story by going over Reigns and becoming the champion. In the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, oh boy, take this with a grain of salt, Dave Meltzer reported that it was Reigns and Paul Heyman who convinced McMahon and Triple H to change the finish. The reason for that was because, and I quote, because they believed it would be more beneficial in getting people like Jey Uso and Solo Sikoa over, as well as many others, and make Rhodes a bigger star to hold off the switch for a year. Those in the company feel it was the correct call due to the success of WrestleMania 40. This was also one of the many reasons so many in WWE were pushing for Rhodes to face Reigns. And that ends the article right there. So first and foremost, always remember, if anything is coming from Dave Meltzer, just take it with a grain of salt. Do your own research, okay? Do your own due diligence. Maybe there's something of a pattern that Dave Meltzer is failing to realize, and none of this actually makes any sense. But again, Dave Meltzer is saying this as if he sourced someone backstage, so let's take it with a grain of salt, but at the same time entertain the idea, right? So what Dave Meltzer is saying, and again, this is not confirmed, this is alleged, was Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman essentially played backstage politics, and for all intents and purposes, they stabbed Cody Rhodes in the back, right? As far as getting this big moment. Now, I will definitely say that there are some patterns that kind of coincide with it. Now, still questionable, but there are some patterns, like for an example, Roman Reigns taking all these extended breaks more so than ever before. Yes, he had breaks in 2021 and 2022, but never to the degree of how we see him take it in 2023. That was actually my main reasoning for wanting to see Roman Reigns lose the belt to no matter who what. And so as long as it was someone credible, I didn't care as far as Roman Reigns losing the belt, because I wanted someone to hold the belt and for it to be represented on SmackDown every week. That is what I wanted. Other people may have their own reasonings. I do not fault you for your own reasons. That is my reasons as to why I wanted the belt off of Roman Reigns to begin with, especially given how he was legitimately presented going throughout 2023, which I didn't feel him being off of television, which I gotta presume from the company's end has to do more with making him feel a lot more prestigious. I didn't feel it did anything as far as making him feel even better. I mean, once you get past Money in the Bank, you can make an argument. The Jey Uso stuff made Jey look a lot better going into SummerSlam, and you can also make an argument that entire angle overall, actually there's a very, very strong argument, if not flat out confirmed, that angle did put a lot of a lot of prestige upon Jey Uso, where right now he's one of the figureheads of Raw, which no one would have seen coming. I absolutely will give you that, right? But at the same time, you're going to have to convince me why that was a good idea to hold the belt off. And mind you, I was one of the people at the time ignorantly saying that this was a good idea to have Roman hold on to the championship belt. But at least in my mind, without thinking clearly, my whole perspective was Roman Reigns holding the championship belt absolutely is going to get more heat on him. But more importantly, we're going to get more out of this whole little angle right now with the bloodline. Because remember, coming out of 2022, going throughout 2023, especially at WrestleMania, that's when the bloodline story peaked. That's when it was peak cinema, as the kids like to say nowadays. And almost everything that the bloodline did from a kayfabe sense was probably some of the best television I've seen in maybe 20 years. And that's saying a lot coming from a guy who grew up in the Ruthless Aggression era. I absolutely adore the bloodline angle, and I still have fond memories of it, even though it was only just a year ago. I thought that was peak WWE, and it was great content for the channel overall. It was a great distraction from seeing all the shoot and backstage stuff and thinking to yourself, who gives a fuck? Do you see this awesome ass angle? This is a hell of a lot more intriguing to talk about than any of the backstage shit, which is honestly very abnormal considering how professional wrestling has been exposed so much. So as far as my position was considered, I'm like, okay, I want Roman to retain the championship belt. I want this to continue. All the stuff we've seen with Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens and Jey Uso and yada yada yada, I want to see more of this, especially given the context going out of it that, hey, there's a lot of things that we can get out of the bloodline story going forward without recognizing that Roman Reigns wasn't going to be there, and this was just a watered down version of the bloodline story, and it completely jumped the shark, and it was absolute shit. And knowing that this right here was going to be the perspective from their outset going forward, I don't believe, in my opinion, that this was a great decision. I'm just, again, entertaining the idea that this was Roman Reigns' legitimate thought, and Paul Heyman for that matter, to go out of their way to say, hey, Paul, Vince, we're not really feeling Roman dropping the belt tonight. Because here's my idea. Isn't that somewhat, in my opinion, kind of backstabby, kind of manipulative to a certain degree, right? And don't get it twisted. This has happened eons and eons throughout professional wrestling as far as the top guy being in that spot. And you have to do things that you wouldn't normally do in order to hold on to that spot. As I said once, and I'll say it again, no matter what anyone ever tells you, there is no such thing as a perfect leader. Someone, something, the opposition of whatever party, the opposition of whoever wanted that person in charge, there will always be someone who's pissed off on the other side, right? No one is always going to be 100% happy. It's just not going to be the case. And in this case right here, I find it very, very hard to believe that Roman Reigns, knowing that he was going to go on vacation, actually believed that, hey, this is going to be a good thing going forward. This is going to keep heat and steam on the bloodline. But you, Roman, are the focal point of the bloodline, right? So why are you, knowing good and damn well you were going to probably be in there legitimately, like literally a handful of times throughout 2023, why did you believe it was a good idea to still take your vacations that you would have taken regardless? The only difference is it would have been more of a linear time, like how you're seeing Roman right now, versus you doing this sporadically throughout the year, which is a hell of a lot more, in my opinion, hurtful and harmful to the company and the product at the time, at least coinciding with your bloodline rivalry or your bloodline storyline at that moment, right? Why would you believe it's a good idea to hold on to the belt when your purpose and your perspective for holding on to the belt was getting more heat, essentially, on the bloodline, just to still take the sporadic vacations regardless and leaving them unstuck most of the times, whether it's PLEs, whether it's SmackDown, you left WWE unstuck, and by virtue, us fans, a bunch of times in order to still do what you wanted to do while holding on to the championship belt. I don't buy that. What I believe, and again, people can say I'm being conspiratorial here for a second, and maybe in some way it wouldn't be to this degree, but again, I feel like there is some realms, and what I believe to be the case is just that maybe Roman Reigns felt somewhat threatened. Maybe Roman Reigns probably looked at someone like a Cody Rhodes, an EVP coming off from a different company, very similar to how Seth Rollins felt. And Seth Rollins admittedly said he was jealous of Cody Rhodes, right? Why would I have any other reason to not believe that Roman Reigns doesn't see the same thing in Cody Rhodes? a guy who's going to take his spot, a guy who's going to fulfill the things that Roman Reigns isn't going to be around to fulfill if he really wants it to be that way. And mind you, I understand in the end of the day that Roman Reigns probably feels like he's secure, man. Roman Reigns probably is a made man in the end of the day, but at the same time, you know, it's not as if this is like out of the ordinary, right? Stone Cold Steve Austin was also a made man who was very, 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 very much, I wouldn't say insecure, but damn sure intimidated by a guy like The Rock coming up through the ranks about to be on par with him. Because who the hell wants to have a substitute for whenever they're not around? It makes you less valuable, right? Who's to say Roman Reigns didn't feel that exact same way? And before we actually before we reach the pinnacle of Cody Rhodes' status, let me, at the very, very least, there's a good and there's a bad to this, right? At best, I can get more out of this, and maybe I can just, reestablish my name even further, showing the people and the company how it feels for me to not be around as champion, and you'll miss me in itself as champion. You know, pretty much boost up my name a little tiny bit to make myself feel, or make myself feel a lot more valuable to the company. That's at best. And at worst, when dealing with Cody Rhodes, I don't know how else to say this. I don't want you on par with me. I do not want you or the company to feel as if you are on same playing field, on the same level as me. So my value doesn't go down in the end of the day. Because if I'm not around and you're around, and for some reason the company thinks we're on the same level, then they can always insert you in spots that I would have otherwise been inserted into. And people are like, well, Devontae, he actually did the job this year. Well, okay, he kind of had no choice, right? Right? You can only prolong it for so long. And I do feel there was somewhat of a prolonged instance as far as why he did what he did, because he knew he was going to use that championship belt to the following year at WrestleMania if he was going to actually make it out of WrestleMania. Hell, and this is actually admirable in my opinion as far as him taking care of his family, but at the same time, one can't say that it's still not manipulative as fuck. Not that I'm saying that I wouldn't have done the same thing with my own family members, but it's still to suggest that, okay, but what you're doing is still being very manipulative, is still showing favoritism, and they hinted that at the article. Now, they'll say it in a manner that sounds a little bit more like understanding, but for all intents and purposes, this is kind of nepotism, right? With how he's treating Solo Sikoa, with how he's treating a Jey Uso, and it paid dividends for a Jey Uso. Don't get it twisted. Like I said, I'm calling it out for what it is. It's not to say that I disagree with the practice in the instance that I'm going to be a hypocrite and say that I wouldn't do it myself, while at the same time still acknowledging the fact that you're holding someone else's down, you're holding someone else's momentum down for the sake of your own family going up. He outright admitted, right? This is, again, we're entertaining the idea that Dave Meltzer is actually sourcing correctly, and this is all legitimate. He outright said that we're doing this in order to get my family members over. Right? Like, I need to be champion in order to establish my cousins. And like I said, that's admirable, but you're still fucking over a Cody Rhodes, but you're still backstabbing a Cody Rhodes, but you're still, and one can make an argument that there's just so many things that only come out good for a Roman Reigns, whether it's the prolonged establishment as him being a champion, whether it's him still taking his vacations in a sporadic manner, whether it's putting over his cousins, whether it's making himself seem more valuable because he's no longer around the product as much as he was while still being champion at the same time. While going to WrestleMania, all this coming up at a head and him losing the belt and him saying, okay, now everything that I put in place, now we're gonna watch it fester, right? We're gonna watch it marinate, and we're gonna see how this is gonna actually look. After kind of giving you guys a taste of what it feels like with me not being around so much, let me give you guys the full taste now that Cody has the championship belt. Again, this just feels all very political. It feels all very like, okay, you know what? I can actually see it. Right? It's not to say that what I'm saying Dave Meltzer is confirming, because again, it's Dave Meltzer in the end of the day. You always have to be careful whenever sourcing anything from Dave Meltzer, but at the same time, if I'm following the pattern of behaviors, I can absolutely see Roman Reigns going out of his way to backstab Cody Rhodes in this manner in order to put himself in a more appropriate position. And like I said, I don't fault him for that. People can fault him for that because they feel like it's immoral, and I agree as far as the context being immoral, but at the same time, I don't disagree with the fact that if you were in his shoes or if I was in his shoes, that we wouldn't do the same thing for our family, for ourselves, honestly, for our own legacy, right? Our legacy in regards to how we look, as far as our profile is considered going forward, and as far as having something established regarding our bake fights, right? We all would do stuff to make ourselves come out on top. But I don't want to hear the narrative. And like I said, unless this is actually debunked by somebody referencing Dave Meltzer, and I'll put a community post out on that if that happens to be the case. And it's very 50-50 when fucking with Meltzer nowadays. So don't pretend as if this whole thing is legitimately like thrown out the window. Devontae, you're just running with Dave Meltzer and what he said. No, I'm not, because I've said many times throughout the video that this is alleged. I do not outright believe it, but at the same time, I don't outright dismiss it. And like I said, entertaining the idea that this all went down, I don't want to hear anybody, at least for the time being, pretend as if Roman Reigns dropping the belt and doing the job was something that Roman Reigns wanted to do like forthwith. That Roman Reigns is a good person, and hey man, he wanted to go out of his way to make Cody Rhodes look stronger before dropping the championship belt, because there's a lot of people who wanted Cody Rhodes to win that belt last year. And honestly, for me personally, I feel somewhat played, knowing that the bloodline angle wasn't going to continue in the manner that it was going to continue. And no matter how I feel about Cody Rhodes, how I feel about him being boring, this, that, and the third, that's a separate argument, an argument that I absolutely will make, but a separate argument from the issue that Roman Reigns made me believe that he was going to continue throughout 2023 with the bloodline, and what we got in late 2022 or throughout the latter portions of 2022 and in the early portions of 2023 was going to continue, leaving out of WrestleMania with the climax of some of these feuds, right? Rather it being the conclusion. Overall, I feel duped. I feel like the WrestleMania moment could have and should have gone to Cody Rhodes if, in the end of the day, you were going to do what you did anyways throughout 2023, while at the same time still, it's like having your cake and eat it too, but it's at the expense of the fans. The bloodline angle throughout 2023 for the most part was absolute dog shit, save maybe for the moments building up to SummerSlam and maybe building up to the Money in the Bank, right? Coming out of one of those Saudi shows. For a few months right then and there, you were getting some good stuff out of the bloodline. But post SummerSlam, it just fucking dragged. It dragged, and it would have helped if Roman Reigns was around more often, and more power to him as far as getting that sweet fucking contract to make himself, not make himself, that's not the right terminology, but to actually give himself better leverage and better circumstances within this situation. I don't fault anybody for that. If you can get the bag and get the schedule that you feel you're deserved, that you can demand, and that you know you can get, you be a fucking clown and a fucking idiot to not go out of your way to get all that for yourself. But as the person on the outside looking in, and more importantly, as the fan who supports everything that you're currently doing at the moment in regards to the bloodline, and would have liked to see more coming out of that, to know that I didn't get bang for my buck, and it came at the expense of everybody else around me, for you to get what you wanted to get for yourself, no, more power to you, once again. But it came at my expense as far as a fan and as far as my entertainment, right? I would have much preferred you dropping the belt to Cody. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Roman Reigns is such a moral person for doing his fucking job, when the job that he did right there a couple of weeks ago should have been done last year if you weren't going to do the thing that everybody believed you were going to do going forward had you held on to the championship belt to begin with. It's disingenuous, it's deceitful, it's manipulative, and it fucks everybody up in the end of the day, again, just so you can have yours. And eat, bro. Eat all day. But at the same time, knowing all this coming out, and again, alleged, it just makes it feel like 2023 was such a huge waste of time. And Roman knew it was a huge waste of time. And it just reassures everybody and reaffirms that status quo inside professional wrestling, where DTA is a legitimate thing. And all you can do is have favorites, but always distance yourself from your favorites, right? Because in the end of the day, whether you're talking about the diva wrestlers that are being stand for, whether you're talking about the male wrestlers that are being stand for, they care about one person and one person only, and that's themselves. Good for them, but not at my expense. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below in regards to the commentary. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment. Yeah, Allahu Akbar. Let me know your comments down below in the comment section in regards to the article today. Do you believe Dave Meltzer and the things that you're seeing? Do you agree with my sentiments in regards to how Roman Reigns kind of played everybody in order to hold on to the championship belt, when in reality he could have dropped the belt all along? This was going to be the instance going forward in regards to the Bloodline in 2023, when Cody Rhodes could have easily gotten that belt, and maybe we could have gotten something different going throughout 2023. Who knows? Maybe you could have got more interest, because in the end of the day, and I'll end it on this right here, there's a lot of delay that I kind of feel suppressed Cody a little tiny bit, because he had a bunch of momentum, obviously, coming out of 2023, going into 2024. And people can say all they want to, like, oh, Devontae, the angle going into WrestleMania was so stupendous. And yeah, here's my thing. If they knew the entire time that this was the goal going into WrestleMania, then I'm all for that. But two things. One, The Rock didn't mention anything about doing any of this until later on in 2023. And that's not me saying it. That's what they're admitting right here in this article by notating the fact that the only reasons why Roman did this was to kind of, let's see where Cody goes from here. And let's put some more heat on my cousins. No mention of The Rock at all. And also, going into WrestleMania, they were still going to do Rock and Roman when it was all said and done regardless. So the whole let's see where Cody is going from here didn't even matter. They were going to do Rock and Roman regardless. There's another article going around right now about Rock going out there, and apparently he was going to beat Roman Reigns for the championship belt. So no, none of what I'm hearing right now, none of what I'm seeing right now is corroborative with the fact that, oh, Devontae, did you know that they were going to do this the entire time and look how it played out? No, everything happened to be a happy accident, and it played out in the manner that it played out. But let's not pretend at the end of the day that all this was planned going into 40. I don't believe that for 1 second. Like I said, initially what Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman have alluded to is what I believe they were going to do to begin with. They just so happened to stumble into this, and good for them and good for the fans. But again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, oh, Roman Reigns, he's such a good dude for doing the job. The Cody Rhodes, he was such a mastermind. Vince McMahon and Triple H show, oh, they're so mastermind with what they did going into 40. Oh, but no. Not buying it. You can buy it. Go for it. I'm not going to say that you're a terrible person for buying it. I just think you're a fucking idiot. As always, my name is Devontae, and I'll be catching you guys later on for SmackDown or if anything else pops up in the news. Deuces. P. Eyes.